good morning, everybody. What's up? It's Thursday morning live. Glad that you're here this morning. I'll tell you what, I definitely need coffee this morning. That's for sure. How's everybody doing? Glad that you're here. Hey, if you are new listening into the show, welcome. We're here every Thursday morning. We really focus in on Chicago markets, what's happening in the Chicago markets, businesses in the Chicago market. Hey, if you're a local area entrepreneur, business owner, you want to get on this show and get a little bit of notoriety for your business, throw me an email, throw me your phone number, email address in the chat this morning, and I'll get back to you. If you're here listening in, buckle up. You're in for a ride this morning. Make sure that you drop your name and where you're from in the comments this morning. Say hello. If you have a question for our guest this morning, make sure that you get that in the comments as well. Like us, love us. If you're out on YouTube, please smash the subscribe button and stay tuned for all the content and relative information that we bring on a daily and weekly basis. If you're in the multifamily or real estate investing space, following me will just bring you more and more information and some really great guests on this show and my other two podcasts. So glad that you're here. What are your intentions for today? You know, I set every morning up with intentions. What are you planning to do today? How many sales calls do you need to make? How many appointments do you need to go on? Who are you meeting with? How are you building your network? How are you building your business moving into tomorrow? So we're going to get a chance this morning to talk a lot about that with our guest. Hey, I am excited about this morning's guest. Man, this is a longtime friend, and we're probably going to date ourselves this morning a little bit. We've known each other for quite a few years, and we met early on in our real estate careers and have always just been friends for a long time. But my guest this morning is going to be Ron Wexler. Ron is with Keller Williams Preferred Realty in Orland Park. Ron's a serial entrepreneur. I love Ron because over the years, I've watched him do a number of things, and we've done things together, but he's a great real estate guy. So we're going to get a lot of insight on the Chicago market right now, maybe some talk about interest rates. We're going to talk about how to scale a business. We're going to talk about being an entrepreneur. So stand by. Let me bring Ron in. Hey, buddy. Good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
It's good. It's good. It's good to see you. Hey, we got a couple new listeners on this morning. Some people from California, my buddy Forrest, and good morning, Cheryl and Melissa. Glad that you guys are here this morning. So Ron, man, it has been a while since you and I have connected, and we kind of bumped into each other again on social media. And I said, hey, when are you going to be on my show? Because I had Matthew on, and Matthew is a longtime friend of both of ours. And you said, whenever you ask. So I asked, and here you are. Glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
Man, it's been a long time. We've known each other a lot of years. So.
You know, when you say that, I think literally it goes back to the early 90s, which is longer than a lot of people have had a career in real estate, right? When you talk about people, I'm finding that with the offices I'm a part of that, you know, like now I'm in the room and they say, you know, how long have you been in the business? And I'm like, oh man, I'm the oldest guy here. How did that happen?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? But hey, you know, here's what's interesting though. A lot of the people we got in the business with aren't in the business anymore.
True.
A lot of the people we did get in the business are still in the business, and they're the smartest ones in the room. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, hey, listen, I start every show with one question, and you know, I want to know what is one word, what best describes you personally and professionally?
Boy, that's a great question. And I, you know, you don't know me as ever being able to do anything in one word, so I'm not sure. I'd say passion, abundance, inclusive. You know, one thing I've learned a lot the last couple of years is that I'm really not having fun unless there's other people on the journey with me and we're in it together and having fun. And it's funny when you think of yourself, like I've never really had a job, right? I've always been an entrepreneur pretty much forever. And so I've never really had to report to anyone. And I'm definitely stuck in, I call it realtor syndrome, which is you can't make me, right? I can do whatever I want. And the more I give that up and the more I find other people who are way better at parts of what needs to get done than I am, the bigger it grows and the better it is.
Yeah.
So there's your one word answer. How about that?
Yeah. Well, like you said, you've never been a one word guy. That's for sure. So that's I've learned so much from you over the years. Let's talk about your journey a little bit. You mentioned journey. Where'd you start from? How'd you get to where you're at today? What have you been doing in between?
So, it's funny. This Friday, we're having a wealth building class in the office, and my financial guy is going to be the guest. And he literally is the first friend I ever had in my life. He lived 3 doors away from me when I was born, right? And so I was thinking about, his journey so I could introduce him to the people that are going to be at this class. And I dug up a Little League picture from 1971 when we were like 11 years old. And I went back all the way to, we used to door knock to get pop bottles so we could return them at the store for the deposit. And I don't know if you remember those days, but I was thinking, okay, wait, I was door knocking when I was like 7 or whatever, 8 years. Like I never even thought about it that way. And, he had paper routes and we had paper routes together. And, he went and bought candy wholesale from a big warehouse and sold it in his living room to all the kids in the neighborhood, penny candy. And, I was just thinking about like all the things, all the lawns that we cut and the windows that we washed. And, it's funny when you think about like the journey. I always started the journey when I was 14 and I started working in the stereo store warehouse. And I was like, actually a journey started long before that. It's kind of interesting. So, I worked for a company in Chicago called Music Craft, which probably nobody listening who's under 55 or 60 probably knows what that was. But when we were all growing up, the first thing you saved your money for was to buy yourself a stereo. And this company had 8 stores in Chicago. It was an independent. It wasn't part of any big, national corporation or anything. And these guys built up this incredible business. And then I learned so much. Now I know how much I've learned from them, from watching these guys build this incredible business, build incredible wealth. And then the way they went out of business was really interesting to me because I just look at it now with the different businesses, because I'm not just in real estate. I've got other things I'm playing with. And I look at how these guys left the business that they were in. And it really, they literally just, they owned most of the real estate, which was really smart where their stores were. And they literally just sold out all the equipment and they were done. People tried to buy the name from them, tried to buy the database from them, tried to buy their business. And they literally just had one big going out of business sale, put the cash in the bank, and they were finished with the stereo business. And it was just real interesting to me, especially now after being in real estate 38 years. I talked to a lot of agents that, were each other's contemporaries, and I'm not quitting anytime soon. Like I really love what I'm doing and I'm having fun, but a lot of them are like, they're at the point where they're done. They're between 60, 65, 70 years old. They're like, okay, I want an exit. And I just talked to a guy yesterday. His exit plan was in 2 years, I'm going to move to Tennessee.
Hey, let me just back up for 1 second and cut you off. I just want to back up for one quick second and ask you about that Music Craft deal, right? Do you think at that time, because when we watch technology today and, companies that don't keep up with technology are gone like that, right? Do you think that Music Craft at that time, that they were short-sighted, that they could have done something differently, or were they just burned out and done on the business and didn't even want anybody to keep their name? Because I think your brother tried to buy that name, didn't he, at one point, or buy them out?
Yeah. Well, what happened? All right, I'm just making this up, right? Because I wasn't part of the decision. So I'm just observing it from, I wasn't part of the family that made this decision. What it looked like to me is you had the 2 brothers who started the company, and everyone in their family was a part of it. Those guys, one passed away, the other one retired. And then the company, the next generation took over because of how hard everybody worked, including them. change, or we're chose to go away. I mean, they really, he went to him and said, we need to bring in, the digital world, computers, maybe even digital, like games, right? It was fun. When we were young, what did you spend your money on, right? A bicycle, maybe a baseball mitt if your parents didn't buy you one, and then a stereo. Now all of a sudden that same money at the end of their existence, it was a stereo, a television, right? Kids didn't buy TVs before that. A television, video games, a computer. God, like there was just so many other things in the electronic world that people were buying, and they just weren't there. They didn't want to make that change.
I still have my music. I still have my Music Craft stereo.
Do you? I love it. And probably listen, a lot of people around Chicago do. I mean, we sold a hell of a lot of stereo equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing. I unloaded those trucks from when I was 14 to I was 18. So I worked in that warehouse. And those trucks didn't stop all day long. I mean, it was pretty amazing. And, they were great people. They were, family friends. They built up an incredible business. And like I said, I don't truly know what their thinking was, but they owned all the real estate, which was, brilliant, of course. And maybe they still do. I don't even know. And they just were done with that business. They weren't willing to. I always, you and I've had this conversation before. I think about, that there was two kinds of people, when things change, right? There was like the blacksmith who was putting shoes on horses. And when the car, and there's one on every corner, when the first car pulled up, he goes, that's stupid. No one's going to want those things. That's dumb. I'm the best guy putting shoes on horses and fixing wagon wheels. And there was the other guy who got rid of all that, put in gas pumps, learned how to fix cars. And that gas station, went on for another 30 or 40 years. And those blacksmiths, how many are left in the whole world at this point?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So I think of business at that time, that's how I saw it.
So go back, you were talking about, you were kind of segueing into people in the real estate business that are 60, 65 years old, kind of doing the same thing, just getting out.
Yeah.
Segue into that.
And so we just, the conversation I've been having with people is transitioning. And like my attitude, right, this is where I probably am not quitting anytime soon. I feel like for 38 years, I've been learning lessons. Why would I stop now? Like now I get to apply all of those lessons. Like this is the payoff for 38 years of working 70-hour weeks and, giving up as much as I did. And I'm not complaining. I lived a great life. If I was gone tomorrow, I'd be like, okay, I did the best I knew how and had a great time. So I'm not complaining, but it's like, now is the payoff. I just feel like, taking everything we've learned in the real estate space and applying it to other businesses, applying it to investments, applying it to wealth building. Like now's the fun part. It's like, okay, how fast, it took forever to get the first million. How fast can you get the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth? So, that's kind of what I just saw. I think it was Michael Jordan. There was an interview and they asked him about money or wealth building or something. I'm making that up if it was Michael Jordan. Anyways, I saw somebody who we all think of as super wealthy right now. And he said, the first million is so hard. Just start with the second million.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, I've heard that before.
I don't know who it was. Anyways, but it really is, because it's like you have to turn into that person along the way. Like that's what I think. That's why this world of instant gratification. I think people don't understand that if I handed you $1 million, if someone handed me $1 million when I was 20 years old, it would have been gone. Like I wasn't the person that was ready to handle it and know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So I think you have to grow into that person.
So I think here's an interesting story about you and I. We met in the early 90s. There you go, giving that secret away. But we sat in the front row of a Mike Ferry event, you, me, and Honor.
Yeah.
And we, and there was probably 3,000 people in the room. And we met each other in the front row. Which I think is really interesting, because how many new people in the business go up and sit in the front row at an event maybe they've never been to before? And I chose to do that. I know you had been to Mike prior to that, but that knowledge base where you gain things. I was talking to a couple people this week, Jack Hamilton and Ty Leon Guerrero, but we were talking about how all that stuff we learned back then the scripts, the dialogues, the objection handlers, how to prospect, how to build a business wasn't just about real estate, but it was about life. It was about business building. It was about being an entrepreneur. It was about growing personally. And, I always say you don't grow professionally unless you grow personally. And Mike did that for so long for so many people.
I agree. And, so everything you just said boils down to mindset, right? Like we learned how to be the people. And like, I always think about the biggest thing I think I got out of being in business with Mike was the discipline, to actually show up and play full out for however many hours a day. I think a lot of people don't really want to do that. Like you and I had like a script practice time every morning, I think 2 days a week or 3 days a week at one point, that neither one of us missed once, probably for 5 years. Right. You realize that, like, who the hell does that? That's not normal.
Yeah.
It's totally.
When you tell people today, hey, find someone, or here's someone that you can partner with, get on the phone every morning and work through this dialogue, people look at you like you're a Martian,
Right. Well, it's interesting. So, our offices, the 2 offices I'm involved with right now, closely, we have prospecting groups. We have people that meet in the morning, do, a little bit of a charge up, get excited, practice, whatever script they're going to be using that day. And then they get on the phone together. They're all in a room together and they make calls like we used to do. I mean, you used to do that. I used to do it with my team all the time. And again, I'm not, and maybe that isn't the way you have to do business anymore. I don't know. It's what I knew and it's what worked for me. And when I look back on it now, as I grew my team and I didn't have that job anymore, I realized that I did 2 to 4 hours a day for 18 years.
Wow.
Right? Like when you actually add up all the time, it's like, holy cow. It didn't feel like 18 years because I was having fun and building and, growing something, and other people. I loved having other people in the room with me. There's still a lot of people who are like, oh my God, I had so much fun when I came and lead generated with you. Like we just had fun, and you and I made it fun. And we had some really, you told me, can I just tell a great story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So this one time you called me after we were done making our calls for the day, and you said, I just want to know how you would have handled this. And I said, what was it? And you said, well, this guy, I just introduced myself, and, he was an expired listing or something. And I introduced myself, and the guy started swearing at me and hung up on me. And you said, what would you have done? And I said, wait, no. First, I want to know what you did. And you said, I called him back and I said, who do you think you are talking to me like that? And it cracked me up. And you said, what would you have done? I said, I would have just made the next phone call. Like, I wouldn't have cared. I said, it just cracked me up. That, like, the guy, it hit you so bad, like at that moment that you just felt like you wouldn't leave it there. And I think growth in business is making those, like today, you probably wouldn't call that guy. I know you wouldn't call that guy back. You would have just done like, whatever, and you would have moved on. But at that moment, when we were just getting into that world, like you were just like, no, this is BS, man. He doesn't get to talk to me that way.
And it's funny because today, like on social media, you'll have somebody, I had somebody on social media, LinkedIn, as a matter of fact, send me a message on LinkedIn, tell me I'm an effing asshole. And I sent him back, and I sent him back a message, and I said, wow, I'm sorry that you feel that way. You must really be hurting today.
Yeah, there you go.
And
I mean, thanks for the feedback. Have a great day.
Yeah, I know.
I love the fact. So wait, the reason I got to that mindset is because there's 8 billion people on the planet. So I just go, okay, there's 7,999,999,999 left for me to make friends with. That guy won't be one of them. I'm not too worried about it.
Right. Isn't it interesting though? Some of the people that we met early on that we still know today, we're still friends with. Somebody mentioned to me, they said, man, how do you know so many people? I said, God, I used to be in this mastermind, and I was in this real estate training organization that there were people from all over the country. And some of those people are my best friends today still. And it's amazing, when you think, I'm back in a mastermind with Matthew. And Matthew, and Thatch is in there, Ty's in there, Joe D's in there,
Great group.
Jeff Quentin, a number of people. And it's just really interesting to see where people have come over the last few years. Yeah. So listen, real estate sales, though, isn't the only thing you do. You're kind of a serial entrepreneur. You've been in and out of things over the years. What else are you working on today? Talk about your other businesses.
Well, so we have it's also in the real estate space. We have, a title company. We have a photography, real estate photography company. We're flipping homes. I mean, there's, a few things, and I've interest in a few offices, not just the two main offices, buying real estate with a group. In all of that, here's where I'm at right now. That's kind of interesting. I'm looking at each thing that I'm a part of and assessing what it's really bringing to my life. And so it's a real interesting space, right? So like the weight loss, company was supposed to be the model for a franchise that we were going to take across the country. Like literally everyone you just mentioned and all the people that we know, I was just going to call them and have them all do this franchise because it was really successful and going well. And I'm not going to get into it, but due to a few things that have happened, we just realized that it's not necessarily what we're going to be doing. So that's out. But that thinking, it's like, why can't we start, without everything we've learned? I just want to add some zeros and have fun to what we're doing. So everything that, because there's no shortage of opportunities that are going to cross your path, right? When you're in the space that we're in, there's always somebody that needs some support or some help or has an idea and they want to know how to scale it or grow it. So there's no shortage of opportunities. It's the right people to be in business with. And so, in some cases, there's some people I was in business with that I just was like, we're not a good match. Like their way of seeing the world, my way of seeing the world. It's just, I shouldn't be in business with them. I'm not making them happy or wealthy, and they're not making me happy or wealthy. And it's time to move on, So being more careful about who we're playing with.
So here's one of the things, right, is you're really passionate about certain things. And I think when you find that passion, anybody, when they find that passion, because, hey, we're both over 60. And, what's interesting is that we have no interest in quitting because we love what we do so much. And I look at that every day and, it's like, I think back to that discipline, what you were talking about back when we would get on the phone, we'd role play, we'd get on the phone for 4 or 5 hours every day. Hey, if I didn't have an appointment, I'd go have coffee then the rest of the day. But I knew what I needed to do right in that block of time. You time block and you love what you do. Is it always easy? No, it's not always easy, but the results down the road are always fantastic. And, I think that's what I've seen happen with you in your life over the years is, you just keep doing things and you fell into that place where you just love what you do.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's any more complicated than that. This thing that they're talking about right now where when they interview the billionaires and they're like, find something you have a passion for and go do that. And I'm like, I think it's just the opposite. I really believe you find something that you're good at, get better at it, be one of the best that there is at that thing, and you will grow a passion around that. Yeah. And I think I look at like my children's generation, and they're trying, like they want to have the passion we have for this before they even start. I didn't love houses. I was standing in the front of the stereo store one day. I just met my wife. She already had 2 little kids. She had a 2 and a 4-year-old. And I was like, I can't make enough money selling stereos to not have to give up all my toys and to, toy that. And so I was like, I have to do something that makes more money. Period. Like, I don't own the store. So no matter, and I didn't want to I would have had to work 50 hours a week, which they would have been glad to have me. But I was working 16 hours a week, making over $20,000 a year when school teachers were making about $17,000 a year. So like, I would just, work 3 days a week and water ski 4, right? I mean, life was just about playing. So when I met my wife, I was like, all right, I'm going to become a grown-up now. And so I was like, what other business? And I love selling. So I was like, all right, what about the car business? Well, I mean, I love cars, but everybody hates car salesmen. So I didn't want to go in that business. And I was like, all right, what about stocks and bonds? I was like, well, I didn't even finish college. And, I assume I'd need a little bit of work to do that. And this is all like a 5-second conversation in my head. I called the guy who sold my parents their house when I was in 7th grade. I mean, right then on the spot. And I said, hey, I'm thinking about going into real estate. And he's like, oh my God, you would love real estate, blah, 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 blah. And I ended up working with that guy for 20 years, actually.
Yeah.
But that's how much time went into it. I didn't know. I was walking down the street with my mom within 6 months of that, and she was telling me that one's called a Cape Cod, honey. What that means is that's what I knew about. I knew nothing about real estate. I didn't know one house from the next. I could tell you every car from the taillights, what year car, what model it was. But I could tell you nothing about houses or buildings or any of that.
Yeah, right.
But I knew that I liked to sell. And it was just like helping people make decisions. It's kind of how I've always defined selling is just helping people figure out what they want and then getting it for them.
Yeah.
So
that's my key takeaway from this morning is what you just said, which is helping people get what they want, helping people achieve their dream, helping people, for people who are, looking to, have that home that they've dreamed about or that first home, helping them do that, or in what I do, helping people be able to create short-term cash flow, long-term wealth, offset some of the, inflationary stuff that we're seeing in today's market. Hey, real quick, where do you think the market's headed?
I mean, I think it's going to get tougher. I mean, it already is. I think, probably a third of all the real estate agents are going to go away again, like they did during the last crash. So, and I think that, they're projecting 4 to 4.5 million sales this year, which it's usually between 5.5 and 6 million. So I think there's just going to be less business out there. And I think the people who got into business the last 6 to 8 years are going to have the hardest time, that they're going to either have to learn the skills that we already have. And that's why, like, as an office, like the offices I'm part of, we're like doubling down just on training, like just teaching people how to actually sell, how to convince people that it's dumb to wait. Because it is dumb to wait. I mean, if somebody needs to buy a house, they should just go do it. So yeah, I think it's going to be a tougher market. I think there's going to be less competition, and I think the people who are really full-time and skilled and really into it are going to do great. And I think a lot of the other people are going to either just have really miserable the next probably 2 years, or they're going to get out of the business. Yeah.
So here's a quick story, right? So I learned this from you years ago. But as a real estate agent, and if you're a real estate agent listening in this morning, figure out how to do this. Work Monday through Friday. Be a listing agent. Ron, I remember the days when you and I would have 25 or 30 listings on the market. We'd take the weekends off. We'd go to your cottage. I would, come in on Monday morning. You'd come in on Monday morning, and we'd laugh at the agents that were mad at us because we couldn't be found on Friday through Sunday because they had an offer. But every Monday we'd come in and we'd have 5 or 6 offers. We'd get a couple deals done, and we sold 100 houses a year, and that's just, when you learn those systems, when you learn the scripts, the dialogues, the time management piece, you create a balanced lifestyle, which is kind of a fallacy. But I think that agents today that grab that, and as the other agents who were just order takers get out of the business and the new agents come in the business or learn how to work the business, there's going to be some new successful people that rise to the top.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I can't even remember how many, but as an office, the offices I'm a part of both have, like, you literally could walk in any day of the week and there's some kind of a training going on. There's somebody to help you, figure out how to find more people to serve, or what to say to the people when you do find them, how to time block your life, how to, there's somebody here helping somebody do pretty much everything you need to do. And so that's the new game, right? The game back then was finding the buyers and the sellers. Now for me, the game is finding agents who want to play this game at a high level. And how many, like one of my things I've been, I used to always say, I'll know the office is successful when we have a parking lot full of BMWs and Mercedes, right? And that was just my standard way of looking at it. That if I walk out there, and I'm not saying, if you're not into cars, then, you're probably just as happy driving whatever you're driving. But to me, that, that was like an easy sign of success, right? If people are, all right. So now I really think it's how many people can we make millionaires? Like, that's my goal right now, is how many millionaire agents can we build? How many people can we teach to go from solo, to get them the first goal is always to get them to 6 figures. Right. From the new agents, I want to get them from 0 to 100,000 a year income as fast as possible. And then from there, it's how big do they want to build it based on the life they want to live. Right. So, if you make 100,000 as a real estate agent in commissions, you're probably actually going to have between 50 and 70 to spend for your family after expenses and taxes and everything else. Yeah. So to me, that's a bare minimum just to get along. And then how big, I remember when 100 was, I was like, oh my God, I got to get to 100,000. And once I hit it, I was like, all right, I'm still not, my wife isn't wearing fur coats and I'm not driving Ferraris. I guess 100 wasn't a big enough number. What's next?
Right? Yeah. Then it became 100 deals.
Yeah. Then it became 100 deals.
Right.
And now it's, for my team, the Wexler Group. So we sell houses, all over Chicago. Like one of my team members was telling me she was going to Aurora to list a house. Right. And our office is in Orland Park, which is, it's got to be an hour drive just between those two places. So the Wexler Group sells all over Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana and everywhere. I never did that when it was just me, but as a team, it makes sense that we can cover all of Chicagoland, right? And so just teaching people to get past being solo, and the first they have to you did so well because you mastered something. Everybody wants to learn something and then go, move on to the next thing. No, master something. We got on stage. We were known throughout the whole country for the way we did business because we were succeeding at such a high level, not just because we were nice guys selling houses, but because we were great at something.
Right.
So, my thing is you've got to be, and I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's doing open houses, door knocking, whatever it is, if it's making phone calls, if it's be the best person doing mailings, be the best person on Facebook. I don't care what it is, but do something where you are just cranking it out and doing really well. And then once you've mastered that, teach that to other people and then build it from there.
Yeah. Well spoken. Very well spoken. Hey, listen, I appreciate you being here this morning. Let's wind down. 3 bonus questions. Best book you ever read?
It's got to be Think and Grow Rich.
Oh.
I mean, I've read a million great books, but I think literally they shouldn't let you out of high school without reading Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and probably Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think those are the basis of having a great life if you read those. And now there's, obviously, if you want to live a more balanced life, The One Thing by Gary Keller, the Ed Mylett book I'm reading right now is really great.
One More. Yeah, that was a good book.
Yeah, the One More. I got to see him speak a couple of weeks ago, and that's amazing. So, I don't think there's one book. I think there's the book for you at this point in your life. If that makes sense.
Nice.
But literally, if you don't do Think and Grow Rich, to me, you could take 90% of the books out there about personal growth and development, and they all started with Think and Grow Rich. Like that's really, to me, that's the core book for all of it.
Yeah. Best tourist attraction. Keep it Chicago focused.
Oh, I'm a Gino's East person. And I think it's funny. People talk about Chicago deep dish and then they go get Lou Malnati's or Giordano's or something. And I'm always like, that's not there. That's like saying you want to go in the fastest car and you're in like the best Hyundai. It's like, no, it's got to be a Ferrari or, a McLaren or something. Right. So I don't know. I think everybody should try Gino's East, even if you grew up as a not Gino's East person. But I think for people coming to Chicago, I think that's number one. And I think anything on the lakefront. I think going down to any of the air shows or anything they have, or even just going for a walk down the beach. You and I hung out a lot down on Oak Street Beach and things like that, right?
Yeah, did we?
You just feel like you're on the ocean, and it's just a great, like you're a better you when you're standing around water. So
yeah, for sure. Hey, thanks for being here this morning. How do people catch up with you if they want to talk to you or come and be a sales agent and learn the best skills out there at Keller Williams?
Yeah. Well, if you have anything you want to talk to me about, probably just start with an email, just ron@thewexlergroup.com. I would say is the easiest thing. Because if you call me and I don't know you, I'm not answering the phone anyways. And I might not listen to your message. So start with an email, and I'm glad to connect with anybody. If someone is in a real estate career and they have some questions about direction, if somebody wants to get into real estate and they have a question about it, if you have a business and you're looking for partners to help you take it to the next level, right now I have some of the greatest business partners on the planet, and we can help anybody scale up any business. We have a wealth building class here every Friday where we just bring in different people who are incredible at building wealth. And it's mostly real estate agents in that class. So if you're a real estate agent, you want to come hang out with us on a Friday, you'll get a ton out of that.
Nice.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on, but anybody wants to connect, just Ron at the Wexler Group.
Yeah, and listen, anytime you want me to come in and talk about generational wealth, I certainly, would throw my hat in the ring for that. So.
Okay, cool. I will let them know. I don't run anything that I'm involved in. So.
Okay, nice. Hey, good seeing you this morning. I'm going to move to the back room. I'm going to say goodbye. Will you hang out with me for a couple minutes?
Of course.
All right.
Go get him.
Hang on.
See you later.
Hey, everybody. That was fun this morning. I actually went a little bit longer than we normally go, right? And just because I had, somebody on who I have a lot of respect for, a lot of admiration for, that watched what he's done over the years and the passion that he has today that he had the first day I met him way back when. So, find what you love and chase what you love. And when you're passionate about something, there's not much that'll take you off that mark. There's not much that'll make you change that. So when we chase what our passion and our desire, it's amazing where we end up. And I look at him and I say, man, he's got this figured out. And, I think that's what we all try to do, is we try to figure things out. So glad that you're here this morning. Remember, we're here every week. So subscribe on YouTube, like us, love us on Instagram, social media, Facebook, and we'll continue to bring great content for you, knowledge, information, how to, and I'll look forward to seeing you Thursday morning. Don't forget, Saturday morning, we do Multifamily Unplugged. We talk about multifamily, about investing, whether you want to be an active investor or a passive investor. That's a place to show up and be. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week. Everybody have a great week.